Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned.
Tune the madness down the rage. The world's a jungle stage by stage. Shock Monkey Radio. Feel the static, let it go. Monkey Radio. Twist it down and lose control.
Do you know that doping in Major League Baseball has been tolerated way more than doping in horse racing? Now, I don't know if you looked into this, but I just recently did. But yeah, we tolerated steroids, tolerated past tense in baseball for way longer than we did in horse racing. Back in the day in horse racing, it was like, hey, Mac, I got a hot tip on a horse. And it's like, oh, what's the deal with the hot tip on the horse? The hot tip on the horse is I gave him some cocaine. You gave the horse cocaine. That's the hot tip, pal. He's going to win for sure. You bet your sweet bippy he's going to win. And so people get this hot tip that some guy gave a horse cocaine. Horse cocaine. Or maybe even amphetamines, like speed. And so, they even back in 1910s, they're taking saliva from a horse's mouth and injecting it into the frog, and if the frog died, then the horse was disqualified. It's crazy. They put up with that, a lot longer. When it comes to MLB. So I find that interesting. Plus, the idea of giving cocaine to horses, number one, is I hope it's not the good stuff, man. Number two, that seems like one of the most dangerous things you could ever do. Do not give horses cocaine. All right? Oh, my goodness. You ever get tired of, saying obvious things to people? And I have to tell this, people 100 years ago who are doing this, giving cocaine to horses. Because you can't do it now. Possibly. Maybe they're sneaking cocaine into the horse's alfalfa or whatever the hell they eat. Don't give cocaine to horses. Certainly not the good stuff. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, The Madman. Sorry we missed last week. EK was really sick. Really sick. Kind of mobilized him. I thought he was faking, but nope. He wasn't. Anyway, you can follow me on social media up there, and I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Or you can look for the Shock Monkey Radio store, Zazzle store, in the comments. I think it's in there now. So you can get some Shock Monkey Radio merch, if you like, or not. I'm forced to use a phone again, so forgive me for begging. But I had 4 laptops in my house. I couldn't get one of them to work. I know it's unprofessional to use the phone, but I'm going to try to do as much from road as I can. So let's see what we got next. Oh, bring up the horse picture. Because I planned to use this joke for last week's show. Because, we're getting a horse, April Fool's, so I went and searched on the internet, buy horse cheap close by, or something like that. And this is what came up. And this is a horse called Sweet Savant. You can get him for $2,000 over at the ASPCA. He's looking to be adopted. You can adopt him if you like. I have nothing really to say about it. And somebody said to me, this whole horse thing is fake, man. You're sitting there talking about this horse. Go ahead and adopt this horse. But I want you to understand my reasoning when it comes to, I hope this horse finds a home. I hope a horse with a cool name like Sweet Savant finds a home. Absolutely. Because here's the issues. I can't enact my world domination plan alongside. Back up. Let's say the horse is one step in a world domination plan, and so getting rid of all the horses on Earth is not something that's on my timeline that's going to affect this horse's lifespan. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, this is one that got away. All right, and most horses right now are getting away. I can't take them all out today. If I could snap my fingers and take out all the horses on Earth, I could do it, but I can't take it out today. So in one at a timing, what am I, a horse serial killer? No. No. I'll get caught after like 2 horses. You need a plan. This is the same thing with world domination. You need a plan where you can take over the world. I mean, destroy all the horses on Earth and then eventually take over the world. But you can't trust anybody else to help you enact this plan. So it's quite possible. I'm pushing 50 here. And I think it might quite. I feel so bad for saying this. It might possibly be that I will never enact my plan to destroy all the horses on Earth. I feel like I'm way behind schedule. So in the meantime, adopt this horse because he's going to make it. He's going to make it. Despite all my best efforts. I'm just too lazy about the killing all the horses thing. One more thing about horses, because people seem to like when I talk about horses. I was scrolling through dating profiles, and I've seen more than a few ladies out there with their profiles saying, if you have a dead fish in any of your pictures, go ahead and swipe left. And first of all, what an absurd culling, What an absurd culling. You don't want men who fish? Then you're not interested in men. Sorry. They'll say, I don't want to see a picture of a dead fish or a dead animal in your pictures. It's like, okay, it's what a ridiculous cull, of the men you want to date. And I fear the problem with the dating community is that everyone has their expectations way too high. Like, women are seriously putting in their profiles, if you fish, you're not for me. If you hunt, you're not for me. All right, I guess we're back. Don't know what the hell happened there. Not on Facebook? Okay. Wonderful. Don't know what that was, some sort of technological differences. But I guess we're just going to go on. We'll continue with number 3. I don't know if you got to reset something to get this screen unfrozen. There we go. Ooh. Panic eyebrows. So let's go on to number 3. You can pull up that picture. The Cobra Commander. Cobra! I was thinking about the G.I. Joe comic books written by Larry Hama back in the early to mid 80s. Excuse me. And this is post-Vietnam, of course. And it's a comic book about like military veterans, guys who had served in Vietnam and so forth. And then they become part of this group called G.I. Joe. Fighting this ruthless terrorist organization called Cobra, determined to rule the world. And there were soldiers, United States military, who, as you know, cannot really operate in United States, but guys who are like jaded non-vets and anti-war protesters that were all of a sudden had no war to protest in the 80s. They started moving to a place called maybe Springfield, somewhere in America, called Springfield. And there's this guy called Cobra Commander, and he came up with this front company called ARBCO. Very clever name for it, ARBCO. And it was like Amway products, you sell a bunch of crap. We have a lot of red face scars. A bunch of blue uniforms, military-type uniforms. And so we started this front company, and through ARBCO and other they're doing weapons deals via Destro all over the world, and they're forming they're doing terrorist actions. They're a domestic terrorist group, and G.I. Joe had to have code names, and because they operated inside the United States, they had to have code names. It had to be a super secret organization to deal with domestic terrorists inside the United States. And when judges, that's what Cobra did with their money. When judges and politicians start giving their fealty to Cobra, it's like, oh, ARBCO brings in a lot of money to my campaigns. They're not going to get in the way of Cobra. And that's what domestic terrorism is really doing. And they expressed this concept in the 80s with Larry Hama. I mean, he saw something coming in the United States, I think. And this is what we see with domestic terrorism inside the United States today. You see a bunch of corrupt judges, a bunch of corrupt politicians taking money from these in many ways, domestic terror organizations, say like Antifa or another organization we'll talk about later. But I mean, it's laid out there. It's just all we're missing. Well, I think we're getting pretty close to the kind of Cobra costumes where they all have masks over their faces. You don't see their faces. Looks a lot like Antifa. And what's funny is that this is a 2015 picture in Springfield, Illinois. I almost said Springfield, Illinois, just to piss off people from Illinois, but didn't feel like it. Maybe I did. Anyway, in Springfield, Illinois, and they're having like a little G.I. Joe con, because where are you going to hold a G.I. Joe? In Springfield, right? Because that's the town that Cobra moved to and started working out of. Springfield. And, it could be the Simpsons' hometown, for all we know. Some Springfield in America. And G.I. Joe watches them and fights them and tries to stop them because they're a domestic terrorist organization. Maybe the sigils or the symbology, the sigils, I think. The sigils aren't the same or even as cool. The costumes aren't nearly as cool because, Cobra Commander looks cool. But this was a guy, his name was Mayor J. Michael Houston. AI told me that's the guy in the suit. Aren't they both wearing suits, man? Anyway. He was given a box to this, Cobra Commander guy that supposedly held the key to the city. And this is what, cities have become all over America as they've been taken over by these crazy domestic terrorist organizations with no sense of style. Yeah. But being playful like anybody, the mayor in the mayor's office played into it. It's like, oh yeah, we're totally got taken over by Cobra. Didn't even look up if it's a Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter when it comes to corrupt money, right? Blue tie suggests something, but anyway. Watch out for Cobra. So I saw a couple crazy things this past week, and I want to share them with you because there was a time when if I saw something crazy and I said it, nobody would believe me, and even now I think nobody would believe me. But yeah, you could definitely see somebody witnessing something like this in a town like mine. All right, so sometimes I go to a park. Sometimes it's Dixon Park, sometimes L'Oreella Park. I'll grab my lunch and I'll go to the park. And I'll go and I'll sit there and I'll play the Pokemon and stuff like that. I'll take over gyms, spin the discs and so forth while I'm having lunch. And one time I was at L'Oreella Park and I was doing just that. And I saw this woman and she had been walking all over the park. And I was like, good for her, get some exercise. I'm not doing that. I'm just sitting here shoving my food in my face. And so... and I'm watching her. She's walking through the parking lot. Then all of a sudden, I look up from the phone, and she's tumbling backwards, losing her footing and falling down. And I was like, "What the hell?" And she's like an older lady, maybe 15, 20 years older than me. And I was like, "Oh my God!" So I put everything down. I came running, got out of my car, came up to her, and said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." By the time I got there, she had gotten herself up, so I'm pretty nimble for her age. And I was like, oh, and I just lost my footing or something. It's like, okay. And it's like, as long as you're okay. She's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I turn around and I look, and there's 5 or 6 other dudes sitting in their cars watching this whole thing play out. And I was the only one who got out of the car to ask her if she was all right. That kind of pissed me off a little bit. And I got back in my car, and I was like, I wonder if, I don't come to this park often enough to know that she's the park drunk or something. And these guys, they're just like, I'm not helping her again. It's like almost maybe one of them should roll down his window and be like, hey, man, check your wallet. You still got your wallet? I don't know. But I thought it was kind of hilarious. And kind of sad that I was the only one who got out of the car to ask the woman if she was okay. But who do you tell that to? Come home, go to work. I saw this old lady fall down at the park. And I went and I did that, and somebody was like, she was probably drunk, and I was like, oh. Then it kind of explained a lot after that. Maybe she was drunk. And here's another crazy thing I saw when I got off work one night. I was driving home, and I stopped by Wawa to get some beer. It's only 9 o'clock, okay, 9 p.m. And I pull in this parking spot next to this convertible. I'm not going to give you the make and model of the car, but it's a convertible. And I see this guy getting in with his Wawa bag, and he sits down. And as soon as I'm getting out of the car, he's pulling one of those Wawa wraps that you can get, like the pre-made ones. And it's just immediately starts housing it. I'm like, okay, man's hungry. So I went in and paid for my beer, come back out. And as I'm like sitting back, getting back in my car, he's opening up a second Wawa wrap and it's like, damn. And I've been drunk and I've fed my face. I was like, way too much bourbon in me. Got to get something else in there. I've been to that point, but dude, you're in a convertible in a public place and you look suspicious as hell. Maybe you're smoking, and drinking, and you're like, I got to get something in me. But seriously, like in the time it took me to grab beer, come to the counter and pay for it and come outside, he'd already went through the first Wawa wrap and was already starting on the second. I've never taken a sandwich like that. I was kind of impressed, Makes me kind of want to film myself when I'm stuffing my face after I'm drinking too much. Anyway, fun little story. That adage really threw me off schedule. All right, let's talk about the coin of the week. It's a half shekel from Israel. I first planned to do this on April 1st as the beginning of Passover and so forth, leading into Easter. So I thought maybe an Israeli coin would be interesting. So, close enough to Easter, we could talk about Israeli coins. So this is a 1/2 shekel, denoted on the head side with the 1/2 fraction. Obviously, it's got Israel, and a couple different languages, new shekel, a couple different language, and what is it? Shekel, Israel. Yeah, I think that's it. New shekel. Yeah, it's nickel-plated steel, which gives it its color. On the tail side, you'll see it. There's a lyre, Lyre, because King David was a musician. And I think this is interesting. If you look at how the lines of this string come above the top of the lyre, it was real hard to mint that. And you got a menorah over there. I think it's called a menorah, yeah. And it's a half shekel. It's worth about 16 cents. And back when I was delivering pizzas, there was this customers Friday afternoon. They'd get a white pizza and a veggie pizza before sundown. And usually, like many of the customers, they're usually good tippers. And I usually say, hey, in lieu of a tip, if you have any foreign currency, I would love to get a hold of it. And they would tip me in U.S. dollars as well. But sometimes I'd get a coin, and this guy gave me a coin. And I knew it was a Jewish household. They have the thing on the door, their orders, I think. But, I don't know how all the complexities of, what is it? Not halal, kosher. But I found it interesting, especially now, because, I did that video a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, where I was talking about the Israeli baseball team. And, I got some dislikes on that. And, it could have been some Jewish people didn't like my accent. I was just goofing around, having fun. I'd say do yourself a mitzvah and grow yourself a thicker skin. There's a lot worse people in the world. Because I stand with Israel, and maybe I get some dislikes from people who don't stand with Israel or all the crazy, conspiracy theorists out there. And it's like, and I just never really understood the whole dislike of Israel. And you could be sitting there at home. It's like, he gave you a 16-cent half a shekel. It's like, it's ridiculous. All these stereotypes are ridiculous. I think it's that the whole thing about the hatred of the Jews and so forth, it's all basically jealousy, if you ask me. Because all the Jewish guys I knew growing up, they were smart. They were well read. Every night they're reading the Torah, they're reading the Talmud, they're reading all the stuff they got to read. They got to read their schoolwork, and when they sit at the lunch table with me, with the nerd table, they're like, "Do you guys have any comic books? Anything other than this stuff that I have to read all the time?" And so their kids grow up with fantastic reading skills, reading comprehension skills, fantastic mathematical skills, and so they grow up in a world where the whole purpose is to educate and make them capable. And those guys go on and they do great things. They go to good colleges. They have great careers, and they end up in law and finance because, it's covering a lot of stuff whether it's, understanding a narrative in the law or understanding the purpose or the, whatever it is it takes to understand the law, or whatever it takes to make a chart for role-playing games so that everyone, gets a proper amount of experience. They're the kind of guys who create a spreadsheet based upon a role-playing game that he made up on the Sabbath. Are they allowed to write on it or just like construct it in their mind, And that's the point. It's like they train their children to be successful. And it's all just jealousy. And there's like all the Jews are rich and they have all the money. And it's like, why? Why would they have that? It's like maybe it's because they raised their kids to be successful. And it's just jealousy on your part that you were not raised that way. Or maybe it's jealousy on your part that you are not capable of educating yourself in the same way. Anyway, cool coin, right? All right, let's do a movie review and get into the news. So I watched Apocalypto. And even that movie poster is fantastic. So this takes place in the Mayan civilization, I guess around maybe like 1300. No, it's probably 14, maybe 1500 so. And so it centers upon these like suburban Native Americans in the Yucatan area who are Mayan. They're the Mayan civilization, and you could tell that there's common culture between everyone involved in this movie, and in the way their jewelry is, the way they treat their ears, so forth. The piercings and body modifications that they do. They're all part of the same culture. But Jaguar Paw and his father Flint Sky, and so many good names like Turtles Run, so many great names in this movie, and it's a fantastic movie. And so you come in on these guys, and they're hunting a tapir, which is native to the region, the Yucatan Peninsula. They're hunting a tapir, and they do a kill, and then there's a scene where they play a joke on another guy's. And I'll be honest with you, this is something when EK and I were talking about, like what makes a movie not EK approved, and I think this one's approved for EK. And I was like, at what point if you see somebody eating something gross, do you gag? Because there's a scene in here that makes me gag every single time I watch this movie, in the very beginning of the movie. And it's almost one of those ones where it makes me want to turn it off. But it's all a joke. It's all they're playing a joke on another guy. And then it leads into another, seriously, from one joke into another, they prank this guy, like over and over again. And in many ways, that's very characteristic of Native American culture. They were kind of pranksters. They didn't have iPhones. They didn't have PlayStations. They just played jokes on each other. And that's, it created camaraderie. And if they were good fighters, they were fighters because they were all constantly fighting each other at the same time, And that was just a way of their culture, And then you come back to town with the kill. Oh, wait, no, they ran into this other tribe that was moving past. And they obviously spot each other. And when they confront each other, they just say, hey, this is our forest, and so forth. And then they offer a trade, like some fish, and they hand them a piece of the tapir. And then that shows, oh, okay, we can be cool. And they're like, we just want to pass through and find a new life. And it's like, okay. And then they go back to the village, and they rest up. And then the Mayans from the city, all right, and this whole movie should be, is like why cities have always been nuts. Why cities have always been bad for society. And so they, like in the next morning, these Mayan city folk, they jump Jaguar Paw's tribe and like take a bunch of captives. People die. It's horrific. This is a lot of like questions EK wanted to know. Is like, how much blood are we talking about? So I told him I think it's EK approved. And so they capture a bunch of these guys, and Jaguar Paw is one of them, and they get taken into the Mayan city. Now, like 90% of everything we know about Mayan culture comes from like what we studied in the cities. And when you get to the cities, you see this place is a terrible place. It's run by these, aristocrats that are higher in their own farts. Their society is crumbling because they probably have too much people in a small area that they're trying to feed, and so they're like the crops are dying. There's a disease going on because there's so many people close together, And so what do they do to fight this horrible thing that they're going through, this horrible time? They start sacrificing people, cutting their hearts out, and Jaguar Paw is one of them. All right, And there's a nice little scene when they capture and get to the city where the mother-in-law of one of the other tribe members, I forget his name, who had been bugging him to produce a grandchild for her. He's like, get in there and bang my daughter kind of thing. And it's always making fun of him and so forth. But then they get to the city where the males were taken to be, sacrificed, and the females were taken to be sold into slavery. And they put the mother-in-law up there, and they tried to sell her, and like nobody wanted to buy her, so they just let her go. They cut her free. And it's kind of interesting because like every single character like cared about their bloodline, cared about their society, such as it was. And, and these things mattered to people. Like forefront in their lives. This is my son. He's going to hunt this jungle with me until after I'm gone. He and his sons are going to hunt this jungle after I'm gone. That was foremost on everyone's mind in this story. And a lot of people aren't like that these days. There's a lot of people that are going to die alone because they chose to focus on the wrong things in this world. Jaguar Paw, he gets a nickname on the way to the city. He gets a name Almost, where he almost got killed. And the name really kind of, it's fitting because he is almost so many times in this movie. He's almost done. He's almost winning. He's almost done. He's almost winning. And it's really fantastic. And when you talk about scenes where it shows that these guys are running for 2 days, they're chasing Jaguar Paw through the jungle for 2 days. It shows the capability of the human body and spirit, because that's how we, are a better design than like, deer and stuff like that. They can run fast, but only for short periods of time. But humans with their will, they can run until like their muscles are atrophying. All right. It's not good. It's not healthy to do that. But if you're being chased by a bunch of Mayan city weirdos with a strange sense of style and a murderous appetite when you're running, hey, you find the strength deep down. You know what I'm saying? Roll over and die? No, thank you. I don't want to spoil any of the ending because I think EK might be interested in actually seeing this. I hope he doesn't get mad at me. There's a scene with his wife. His wife was pregnant, and she's taking care. He hides her when the city folk come, and she's taking care of the oldest child, and she's pregnant with another. And she, even she was tough, like super tough. And it wasn't a thing like where it's a tiny little 5'2" girl in a movie where she's kicking the crap out of 7 Russian mobsters. She's tough in the tasks that she has at hand. Her son's got a cut. She got to deal with that. They need something to eat. She's got to deal with that. She tried to escape from the hole. You got to deal with that. It's like, oh shit, I'm going into labor. Got to deal with that. So I mean, these people were tough in a way that so many people these days cannot understand. And most of what we know from Mayan culture comes from the aristocrats that we saw in the city. And the problem with Jaguar Paw is he saw these suburbs, another group of suburbs that apparently were fishermen, passing through his, and like, our land's got ravaged. We're heading to find a new life. And so he he kind of listened to it, and it showed that Jaguar Paw is like a deep thinker. He's sitting there like at the fire, like listening to a story, and his wife's like, come back to me, because he's sitting there thinking about stuff. And being a deep thinker, and also being like incredibly physically capable, all that stuff. Like I said, nobody had smartphones. All they could do was think about all day is like keeping alive, keeping me and my family alive. So, is there a happy ending? Kinda, I suppose. I mean, some terrible things happened when the Spanish arrived. You know what I mean? And I don't mean the fact that they just came in and started wiping out. It's like, no. But the disease, like the introduction of disease to each other and so forth, that was a big problem. And it was destined to happen no matter who got there first. So it's a shame. And I listened to Matt Walsh talk about like the true story of the American Indian, and it's quite accurate. And but it doesn't mean you can't appreciate the day-to-day lives that these people lived in. Can't help where you're born. Jaguar Paw could have been born in somewhere in in Spain, growing up with arquebuses, matchlock rifles. Anyway, amazing story, fantastically shot. There were some like shots I was like, wow, how did they get that? And it's just the beauty of like Central America, you know, the jungles and all the very dangerous things that live within, like jaguars and snakes and so forth. And these are the concerns, poisonous toads. You know, there's all these concerns you got to worry about, and there's still people fighting each other. And there's scenes where these guys are like fighting each other, and then they just happen to step on a snake. Snake bites one. It's like, he's done. And it feels like a hollow victory, because that's the kind of world they lived in. But 12 of 13 stars, almost got 13 stars. Now here's my gripe. Reading. The problem is reading. I want to see the movie. You know, I'm glad there wasn't a lot of conversation in scenes there where stuff could be shown instead of, you know, told through reading. But it's all spoken in the Mayan language, I assume. I mean, who sussed that out? It was like, how are we going to construct a Mayan language? Do Mayans still speak it? Or Mayan people still speak it? I hope so. But I mean, it's when there's a lot of action going on, you don't want to be reading a whole lot. But it's a weird kind of thing. It's like no matter what they did in this regard, they were going to lose a star. Like, I'm pissed off at this because I had to do all the reading in the movie. All right. But if they had dubbed it all in English, I would have still taken a star away because it's in English. It doesn't make any sense. They're Mayans. They should be speaking Mayan. So it's kind of a double-edged sword trying to get a review from me because, I don't know, it's real hard to get that 13th star, isn't it? All right, let's get into the news worth knowing. I kind of like the weekly background instead of this. I'm sorry. If it's too much trouble, don't worry about it. All right. I forgot. All right, so there's been a ceasefire. Okay, we'll see. All right, sorry about the phone. Let's get the live updates. So President Donald Trump agreed to a 2-week ceasefire with Iran on Tuesday. Move came after talks with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who urged Trump to delay any further U.S. military action while both sides continued to negotiate. Trump said Wednesday that the U.S. would help manage traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, which is effectively shut down by Iran early in the conflict, disrupting a significant portion of the global energy supply. I'm sure you all know this. Leaders from Israel, Germany, the United Kingdom, and Australia are among those coming out in support of the U.S. ceasefire agreement with Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country supports U.S. efforts to ensure that Iran no longer poses a nuclear missile or terror threat to America, Israel, or Iran's Arab neighbors, and the world. Netanyahu explicitly said the ceasefire does not apply to Lebanon, meaning Israel will continue to be targeting the Iran-backed Hezbollah terrorists there. Kuwait and UAE are reporting fresh attacks from Iran on Wednesday involving dozens of drones. The regime in Tehran has been targeting its neighbors across the Middle East during Operation Epic Fury. All right, so apparently they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Wednesday that reports of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz following Israeli military action in Lebanon was completely unacceptable. All right, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully you've been following the story. I have as well, but without getting into the weeds too much. When this thing started, I was like, you know, at the end of the day, who are you going to leave in charge afterwards? So another Muslim? Just a different Muslim? You know, and there's people who argued like that was the problem with the war in Iraq, is that, you know, okay, you took out Saddam, and now you have what, another potential Saddam? And so, I mean, I guess I kind of understand the Iraq thing, but when it comes to Iran, I mean, unfortunately, I think, like, total wars, this is tough to say because of Geneva Conventions and all that, but I mean, total war is something that people like radical Muslims can only understand. You know, take out their power, take out their water, you know, they'll surrender pretty quick. And unfortunately, that Trump doesn't want to do that. You know, If it saves lives, it's worth trying. But unfortunately, Iran has this habit, of constantly saying, well, we kind of give up. Just let's talk about it for a couple weeks first. So, I mean, when you slow down, when you every time you take your foot off the accelerator, Trump, it's letting them know that we got a window. We got a window here. And if he wants to say, okay, Iran can charge people to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, that will get China and Japan and all the other people who actually get more oil through the Strait of Hormuz, more interested if they are getting charged. That's the point, You're like, why are you there? It's like, well, you want the Strait of Hormuz open, don't you, the rest of the world? And so when they say something like France is on board or UK is on board, it's like, oh, that's not a good sign. I understand that there's a ton of people who are like, oh, I want an end to the war. But I mean, victory. We need victory. I understand you want to minimize death, but I mean, death is what, Islam's a death cult. Anyway, move on to the next story. Inside Antifa-linked groups plan to structurally change the U.S. as May Day unrest approaches. May Day, they're freaking communists, man. And communism was invented by bored rich kids, which is what these modern communists are. Isn't that weird? First on Fox, a far-left activist group with ties to the anti-ICE protests, Antifa, and broader left-wing organizing, is openly calling for a political revolution and a sweeping overhaul for an American system that includes pressure on college campuses, according to newly obtained training materials. Slides from a March 2026 Sunrise Movement membership meeting, obtained by Defending Education, lays out a vision to structurally change the foundations of this country in pursuit of eco-socialism and a multiracial democracy. The internal presentation outlines the group it describes as grand objectives, including the passage of the Green New Deal legislation and dismantling what it calls the billionaire two-party system. In a slide called On the Road to Revolution, the group outlines 3 goals. Phase 1, which includes stop Trump's grip on power. They drove him crazy. Build up to mass non-cooperation with protests like May Day to use the 2026 midterms to build toward electoral breakthrough. Big win. The plan calls for Phase 2 in 2028. There's a mass strikes, all caps. Huge historic 2028 turnout for our candidate, whoever that is, I suppose. Because it doesn't matter who they are to them. That'll be our Stalin. Anyway, Phase 3 is political revolution, planned to 2029 to 2031. Phase 4 and beyond is titled The New System, which the presentation says will include happiness, maybe, parenthetically. The materials highlight specific actions to target corporations, including hotel chains. One slide outlines tactics such as booking and canceling reservations at Hilton hotels as part of a broader pressure campaign, while another calls on college students to push schools to cut ties with companies such as ICE enablers like Hilton, in an effort to topple the corporate pillar. It's just all jealousy. It's jealousy. Anyone that's more successful than them, they hate them. If you're a billionaire, that means you didn't do anything to earn it, and you stole from everybody. No, you don't become a billionaire, for not doing anything. It's like here in America, you live in the lap of luxury compared to the Mayan civilization. Even the debutantes and the elites over in Chichen Itza, back then, they do not have all the luxury and comforts that you. Do you understand that toilet paper is brand new? Brand new. And you live in such luxury, and you sit there thinking, and you look at these rich people, it's just so jealous. I want what they want. In fact, everyone should have what they have. You know how naive that is? childish and naive. And really, like I said, it's just like the Marxists, just like Marx. They're a bunch of rich kids, spoiled rich kids, and they're like, oh man, living like this is cool. Everyone should live a lap of luxury like me. But the only society that ever created any kind of luxury for the common man is the United States, okay, in the West generally, because they're innovative, and capitalism spurs on innovation. Ugh, God. And every single little group creates a manifesto. Even I wrote a little plan about how to take over the world and how to, take out all the horses on the way to do it. But I mean, hey, I don't put it all out there. You stupid? Do you think I'm going to tell you my plan? Like I said, and I can't trust on a bunch of undereducated, college-educated socialists and communists. I can't trust them. What if a new season of Summer or other comes on? Or some great anime movie comes out, and then all of a sudden nobody wants to come to my Cobra. I'm not going to call my group Cobra. I'm going to call it ARPCO. All right, let's talk about Artemis II. This awakened something in me. And pre-Challenger explosion, I really wanted to be an astronaut. And I looked into what I'd have to do to become an astronaut. Science, mathematics. Sounded pretty daunting, and when I looked it all over and I was like, oh my goodness, and then all of a sudden the Challenger blows up, it's like, well, what the hell? All that training, all that time, and you just boom, someone screws up and boom, that's the story of you. Granted, real big story, but I mean, it took a little wind out of the sails of a lot of people, especially in my generation. But now Artemis II is sending back some fantastic pictures, and that's the whole point of this mission. Is we have way better cameras now than we did in the 60s. So Artemis II astronauts now under Earth gravity again after leaving Moon's sphere of influence. But isn't the Moon also under Earth's gravity? So there's kind of like a thing within a thing. Anyway. So Artemis II's Orion capsule integrity crew woke up at 11:35 Eastern, sleepyheads, 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, entering flight day 8 of 10 as it speeds back towards Earth at over 1,700 miles per hour. Artemis II and the International Space Station had a space-to-space call, joking about looking as if the Orion capsule was on a crash course for Earth before it corrected, and both crews joking about an interstellar game. About an interstellar game of who can top this, probably. Friday, April 10th, splashdown near San Diego, California is planned for approximately 8:07 p.m., completing the historic mission that restarts the U.S. moonshot and broke human records to the furthest space flight from humanity. Yeah, they took a long arc around the moon, mostly to break a record, and mostly because we need to start planting something on the moon immediately. Because if China does it first, they technically have rights to it, the whole thing. And then I don't know about you, but I don't want a war on the moon, for the moon. And what if something bad happens on the moon? Then a lot of bad stuff could happen on the Earth. And so, plus, I mean, the moon is great because of its gravity being so low. It could be a real launch station for even deeper, using less energy, yet less fuel and so forth. You get even deeper in space. So, I mean, and like I said, it sparked something in me. I wanted to be an astronaut, but then after seeing how horribly bad it can go and what NASA had been doing ever since then, it's just unimpressive. Then Elon Musk came back and started reusable vehicles, reusable rockets. That's a game changer. And of course, that sparked a little something in my imagination. But now they got Artemis II, and I can't wait. I can't wait for 2 years to pass and they get the next mission up there. We get cameras on the surface of the moon again. Because it'll be high def, it'll be great. And it's fantastic how fast the transmissions can go now. Why have we stopped doing this? We need to do this more. All right, let's talk about AOC quickly. So AOC tells troops to refuse illegal orders ahead of Trump's looming Iran deadline. This is a little older than the top story. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, urged U.S. service members to refuse illegal orders Tuesday after President Donald Trump threatened to wipe out Iran's civilization. Quote, the president's mental faculties are collapsing and cannot be trusted. Ocasio-Cortez wrote in a response to Trump's Truth Social post, to every individual in the president's chain of command, you have the duty to refuse illegal orders. That includes carrying out this threat. Trump carried out the threat. Trump appeared to issue a warning about bombing some of Iran's civilian infrastructure in an effort to persuade the country to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, among other demands. The president set a deadline of 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So, like I said, it's older. Ocasio-Cortez's denunciation comes at a growing number of Democratic lawmakers in the party's leftward flank who have called for Trump to be impeached, though that effort will likely face an uphill battle in the Republican-controlled House. Some Democrats also urged the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment in an attempt to remove Trump from power. Highly unrealistic outcome. According to the progressive lawmaker, she joined Democrats Tuesday in supporting Trump's removal from power. Blah, blah, blah. They hate him. They drove him crazy. They can't stand him. We get it. We know. Here's the thing, though. I think every single politician who says something like that, who tells U.S. troops to do not follow illegal orders, you should mind your business, first of all. Second of all, I think you should be arrested and charged with trying to incite, rebellion or something like that. Because if some idiot, and believe it or not, I knew a lot of idiots in the military, some idiot reads that, hears you say that, and thinks, oh, well, somehow Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is more important to me than the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, which is Donald Trump. All right? When you join the military, you go through a crash course of how chain of command works and how unit integrity works, and if you got a platoon of guys jumping out of an airplane and only 3 of you get out and you get a sergeant and you got two infantrymen, the unit can continue. Same thing with the ship. The ship gets a hit in a place and we lose all of our radio men or something like that. We got people who are trained in radios who can go in there and still do the job. It's all, we all understand the chain of command. We all understand the difference between legal and illegal orders. It's drilled into your heads in the military. Were you ever in the military, Alexandria? Alex? Did you learn all this about serving sailors when they came into New York bars in the Bronx? So don't tell soldiers, their business. Don't tell sailors their business. And I think you should be arrested and charged for trying to, you're basically telling young, naive men and women in the service to refuse their orders, and you're getting them in trouble. They will get in trouble. Anyway, that kind of stuff pisses me off. Anyway. This one sparked something in me. This story sparked something in me because, before the Challenger disaster, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. So a student accidentally finds extremely rare Crusader-era sword after chasing off suspected thieves. Tell me more. The student in Israel recently made a choice discovery tied to one of history's most violent eras, the Crusades. The University of Haifa recently said in a release that one of its students accidentally, quote-unquote, discovered a Crusader-era sword off the coast of Dor, an ancient part of northern Israel. The sword, which dates to the 12th century, measures over 3 feet long. University of Haifa student Shlomi Katzin was swimming near Dor when he noticed a group of divers with metal detectors. Per translated release, Katzin, who studied maritime civilizations, suspected the groups were antiquities thieves. Oh, this is good. We got bad guys already. Shlomi managed to drive them away from the area, and later during his swim, he spotted the sword protruding from the seabed and acted quickly. So that's my find. He informed Professor Debbie, Shekel from the Department of Maritime Civilizations at the University of Haifa, who contacted the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA. Once they approved the sword's removal, it was sent to Elijah Medical Center, not Elijah Medical Center, for a CT scan. Pictures of the artifact show it was heavily encrusted with shells over the centuries, though it still retains the remarkable shape of a sword. Debbie Shekel, forgive me, a professor at the University of Haifa, called the artifact an extremely rare find that sheds light on the Crusader presence along the country's coastline. Shattered only a handful of similar swords from the Crusader period are known to have landed in the land of Israel. This discovery greatly contributes to our understanding how the use of maritime anchorages and the lives of warriors during this time. More Jewish names. Eyal Berkowitz, imaging scientist expert at the University of Haifa, noted that the team's imaging techniques are non-invasive and kept the artifact intact. Who would think that it would damage anyway? Using CT, we're able to see what a human eye cannot. The internal structure of the sword and its precise physical condition, although a non-invasive examination that preserved the integrity of the rare artifact for future generations. So they put it in liquid so it stays. Researchers also said the sword also carried a symbolic significance. In the release, Sarah Lantis of the Department of Maritime Civilizations at the University of Haifa noted that the swords were symbols of knights and chivalry as well as Christian faith. It's also one of the most common weapons used by the Crusader Knights, and their lives depended on them. Swords were valuable objects and therefore were carefully maintained and preserved. The Crusades, blah, blah, So, like I said, it's like there's a bad guy in here. There's a good guy. It's like, this belongs in a museum. And it does. It really does. And so, it's, being a kid, you love Indiana Jones, and you understand the morality of it. This belongs in a museum. And it's extremely fun because there are people who will take stuff illegally, because there are people who would buy that kind of stuff illegally. And when it comes to history, that's why I think, it belongs in a museum, because people need to know, this belongs to all of us. History belongs to all of us. All right. One more story, then we're out of here for the week. So, Costco's $140 10-pound Easter Bunny has shoppers questioning price and instructions on how to smash it apart. Costco shoppers are hopping into the debate over an oversized Easter treat that's far too big to fit in any basket. You can put the lotion in the basket. Members have been buzzing about the wholesale giant's chocolate Easter Bunny. It's a seasonal sweet priced at $112.97 online and up to $140 in some stores, depending on location. And it comes with instructions, get this, to smash it apart with a hammer, mallet, or rolling pin. The 10-pound giant bunny is being sold as an oversized Easter centerpiece and a shareable dessert. The semi-solid bunny is made with milk chocolate, white chocolate, and dark chocolate. According to the packaging, it contains 151 servings. Oh my God. The box details how to eat it. Shoppers can either smash the bunny by wrapping it in a towel and giving it one bold whack with a hammer, mallet, or rolling pin, or slice it using a warm serrated bread knife. Don't do that. Break it. According to the package, blah, blah, blah. The product, nicknamed Pete the Bunny, according to the box, quickly sparked reaction across social media, where commenters have debated everything from the price and chocolate quality to whether anyone would actually buy that much candy at once. Yeah. One Costco Reddit thread, a shopper shared a photo of a bunny priced at $139.99, prompting one commenter to write, I wonder how many will actually buy it. Other questions whether the large amount of chocolate made sense for most households. So excessive, one person said. I can't imagine the target audience for this. That's me. I'm the target audience of this. It's 10 pounds of chocolate and you have to break it? Maybe I got too much anger in my life. Who knows? Quote, I wouldn't want to eat that much chocolate that tons of other people have touched, but I also couldn't eat that by myself with my family, so who is it for? It's for me. Just for me. You know what I mean? I know how to keep my chocolate clean. Excuse me. Some commenters saw it more of a spectacle. It honestly looks like the ultimate Easter statement piece. One shopper noted, while another suggested it could work for a group setting such as a kid's birthday. Yeah, kids don't mind if it's gross chocolate, right? Laura Lamb, who runs a social media account for Costco Hot Finds, that shared a video of the massive bunny and said it would be the funniest Easter centerpiece. This is one of the people stopping. This one had people stopping in their tracks. The Texas-based content creator said, $140, Pete can stay at Costco, one Instagram user said. For $140, does Pete do any dishes or babysit? Oh, come on. Could you imagine, robots made out of chocolate? Anyway. Yeah, I'm the kind of guy who would love something like that. Robots made of chocolate. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again, I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. I need to buy a new laptop. You can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. You can follow me on social media up there at DNALETSAW. That's the word Wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter. At SLRobbins13 on Instagram. And Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.
The madman loves you all, from the big to the small.